The bustling streets of New York City were alive with the usual cacophony of honking horns and hurried footsteps. Amidst the chaos, a small diner named Joe's Place stood as a beacon of warmth and comfort for its regular patrons. It was here that our story begins, centered around a young waitress named Lily Thompson. Lily was a vision of simple beauty, her chestnut hair pulled back into a neat ponytail, and her warm brown eyes sparkled with kindness despite the weariness that tugged at her slender frame. At just 25 years old, she carried the weight of the world on her shoulders, working tirelessly to support her ailing mother and younger sister. As she bustled between tables, balancing trays with practiced ease, Lily's infectious smile never wavered. Her customers adored her, finding solace in her gentle demeanor and attentive service. Little did they know the struggles that lurked beneath her cheerful exterior. "Order up, Lily," called Joe, the gruff but kind-hearted owner of the diner. "Table 7's getting antsy." "On it, Joe!" Lily replied, swiftly making her way to the table where a group of businessmen sat, their expensive suits and arrogant demeanors a stark contrast to the diner's humble atmosphere. As she approached, one man in particular caught her eye. With slicked-back dark hair and piercing blue eyes, he exuded an air of authority that made Lily's heart skip a beat. This was Alexander Blackwood, CEO of Blackwood Industries and one of the most powerful men in the city. "Excuse me, gentlemen," Lily said politely, setting down their plates. "Is there anything else I can get for you?" Alexander's gaze swept over her, his lips curling into a smirk. Well, he drawled, his voice dripping with condescension. "Aren't you a pretty little thing? Tell me, sweetheart, don't you dream of being more than just a waitress?" Lily felt her cheeks flush with embarrassment, but she held her head high. "I'm proud of my job, sir," she replied firmly. "It may not be glamorous, but it's honest work." The other men at the table chuckled, clearly amused by Alexander's taunting. But before Lily could retreat, Alexander reached out and grabbed her wrist, pulling her closer. "Come now," he purred, his breath hot against her ear. "A girl like you could go far with the right connections. Why don't you join me for dinner tonight? I could show you what real success looks like." Lily's heart raced, a mix of fear and indignation coursing through her veins. She jerked her hand away, her voice trembling but resolute. "I'm not interested, Mr. Blackwood. Please enjoy your meal." As she turned to leave, she heard Alexander's mocking laughter behind her. "Your loss, sweetheart. Enjoy living in mediocrity." Tears pricked at Lily's eyes as she hurried back to the kitchen, the weight of humiliation heavy on her shoulders. Little did she know, this encounter would set in motion a chain of events that would change her life forever. Later that evening, as Lily locked up the diner, she couldn't shake the feeling of unease that Alexander's words had left her with. The cold night air nipped at her skin as she made her way home, her thoughts a whirlwind of doubt and determination. Her tiny apartment was dark and quiet when she entered, save for the soft glow of a nightlight in the corner. Lily's heart clenched as she saw her mother, Sarah, asleep in her wheelchair by the window. The lines of pain etched on her face were a constant reminder of the struggles they faced. "Lily," a small voice called out from the bedroom. "Is that you?" Lily smiled, despite her exhaustion. "Yes, Emily. I'm home." Her 16-year-old sister appeared in the doorway, her eyes bright with excitement. "How was work? Did you bring any leftover pie?" Lily chuckled, pulling a small container from her bag. "You know me too well, little sis." As they sat at their tiny kitchen table, sharing the pie and talking in hushed voices to avoid waking their mother, Lily felt a renewed sense of purpose. She may not have the wealth or status of someone like Alexander Blackwood, but she had something far more valuable, a loving family and an unbreakable spirit. "Lily," Emily said suddenly, her tone serious. "I overheard Mom talking to the doctor today. The treatments, they're not working as well as they hoped. Lily's heart sank, the weight of their reality crashing down upon her once more. Don't worry, Em, she said, forcing a smile. We'll figure something out. We always do. But as she lay in bed that night, staring at the cracked ceiling of their cramped apartment, Lily couldn't help but wonder if there was more she could do. The memory of Alexander Blackwood's smug face flashed in her mind, igniting a spark of determination within her. I'll show them, she whispered into the darkness. I'll prove that kindness and hard work are worth more than all the money in the world. Little did Lily know, fate had a plan in store for her, one that would test her resolve, challenge her beliefs, and ultimately lead her down a path she never could have imagined. As the first light of dawn began to creep through the window, Lily drifted off into a fitful sleep, unaware that her life was about to change in ways she could never have predicted. The wheels of destiny were already in motion, set to propel her from the humble confines of Joe's Diner into a world of high stakes, hidden agendas, and unexpected alliances. The next morning, Lily awoke to the sound of her alarm, her body aching from another night on the lumpy old mattress. As she went through her morning routine, helping her mother get ready for the day and making sure Emily had everything she needed for school, a sense of restlessness nagged at her. You look tired, honey, Sarah observed as Lily helped her into her wheelchair. Are you sure you're getting enough rest? Lily plastered on a smile, not wanting to worry her mother. I'm fine, Mom. Just a busy night at the diner. As she walked Emily to the bus stop, Lily's mind wandered back to Alexander Blackwood and his cruel words. She shook her head, trying to dispel the memory, but something about the encounter had awakened a fire within her. Hey, Lily, Emily said, tugging at her sleeve. Do you think things will ever get better for us? Lily's heart clenched at the uncertainty in her sister's voice. She knelt down, looking Emily in the eye. Listen to me, Em. No matter what happens, we have each other. And I promise you, I'm going to do everything in my power to give us the life we deserve. As the school bus pulled away, Lily stood on the sidewalk, a plan beginning to form in her mind. She may not have wealth or connections, but she had determination, and she was ready to fight for her family's future. Little did she know, her journey was about to take an unexpected turn, one that would challenge everything she thought she knew about herself and the world around her. Back at Joe's Diner, the morning rush was in full swing. Lily moved between tables with practiced ease, her smile never faltering despite the chaos. As she refilled a customer's coffee, the bell above the door chimed, signaling a new arrival. Lily glanced up, and her heart nearly stopped. There, standing in the doorway, was none other than Alexander Blackwood himself. But this time, he wasn't alone. By his side stood a striking woman with fiery red hair and emerald green eyes that seemed to pierce right through Lily. As Alexander's gaze swept the diner and landed on Lily, a slow, predatory smile spread across his face. Well, he drawled, loud enough for everyone to hear. If it isn't our little dreamer. Still serving coffee and living in mediocrity, I see. The woman beside him laughed, a cruel, tinkling sound that set Lily's teeth on edge. Oh, darling, she purred, her voice dripping with false sweetness. Is this the waitress you told me about? The one who thought she was too good for your generosity? Lily felt her cheeks burn with humiliation as every eye in the diner turned to her. She wanted nothing more than to run and hide, but she forced herself to stand tall, meeting Alexander's gaze with defiance. Welcome to Joe's Diner, Mr. Blackwood, she said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. Would you and your companion like a table? Alexander's eyes narrowed, clearly surprised by her composure. My, he said, his tone mocking. Aren't we professional? Yes, a table would be lovely. The best in the house, if you please. As Lily led them to a booth by the window, she could feel the weight of their scrutiny on her back. She knew they were here to torment her, to remind her of her place in their eyes. But Lily Thompson was made of stronger stuff than they realized. Little did any of them know, this encounter would set in motion a series of events that would shake the very foundations of their world, and Lily would be at the center of it all. As she handed them their menus, Alexander's companion reached out, grabbing Lily's wrist with perfectly manicured nails. "I don't believe we've been properly introduced," she said, her voice sickly sweet. "I'm Victoria Blackwood, Alexander's wife. And you are." Lily gently but firmly extracted her wrist from Victoria's grasp. "Lily Thompson," she replied, her tone polite but cool. "It's a pleasure to meet you, Mrs. Blackwood. Can I start you off with some drinks while you look over the menu?" As Lily walked away to fetch their drinks, she could hear Victoria's stage whisper, "Oh, Alexander, darling, she's even more pathetic than you described." How utterly amusing. Lily's hands shook as she poured their coffee, but she took a deep breath, steadying herself. She wouldn't let them see how much their words affected her. She had faced worse challenges in her life, and she would face this one with the same grace and determination. What Lily didn't realize was that her quiet strength and dignity in the face of their cruelty had caught the attention of another patron, an older gentleman sitting alone in the corner booth, his kind eyes watching the scene unfold with interest. As the morning wore on, Alexander and Victoria continued their subtle jabs and mockery, clearly reveling in their perceived superiority. Lily weathered their storm with a calm demeanor, but inside, her emotions were in turmoil. During a brief lull in the rush, Lily retreated to the back alley behind the diner for a moment of solitude. As she leaned against the brick wall, trying to gather her composure, she heard the back door open. "You all right, kid?" It was Joe, his gruff voice tinged with concern. Lily quickly wiped away a stray tear. "I'm fine, Joe. Just needed a breather." Joe's eyes narrowed as he looked back toward the dining room. "Those highfalutin types giving you trouble? Want me to give 'em the boot?" Lily managed a small smile at Joe's protectiveness. "No, it's okay. I can handle it." Joe nodded, respect evident in his eyes. "You're tougher than you look, Lily. Don't let those vultures get to you. They may have money, but they ain't got half the heart you do." As Lily returned to her duties, she felt a renewed sense of purpose. Joe was right, she may not have wealth or status, but she had something far more valuable: integrity and compassion. What Lily didn't know was that her moment of vulnerability in the alley had been witnessed by someone else, the mysterious older gentleman from the corner booth. As he watched her return to work, a small smile played on his lips, as if he had just discovered something truly remarkable. As the lunch rush began to die down, Alexander and Victoria finally prepared to leave. Lily approached their table with the check, her head held high. "I hope you enjoyed your meal," she said, her voice steady. Alexander smirked, pulling out a thick wallet. "Oh, it was illuminating," he said, his tone dripping with condescension. He placed a $100 bill on the table. "Keep the change, sweetheart. Consider it a charitable donation." Lily's cheeks burned, but she refused to be baited. "Thank you for your generosity, Mr. Blackwood, but I can't accept such a large tip. Our policy dash." Now, Victoria interjected, her smile shark-like. "We insist. After all, it must be so difficult making ends meet on a waitress's salary. This might help you elevate yourself." Before Lily could respond, Alexander and Victoria swept out of the diner, leaving behind a wake of whispers and stares. Lily stood frozen, the $100 bill feeling like a burning coal in her hand. Just then, she felt a gentle tap on her shoulder. It was the older gentleman from the corner booth. "Excuse me, miss," he said, his voice kind. I couldn't help but overhear. What you did just now, it was admirable. Lily blinked, surprised by his words. Thank you, sir. I was just doing my job. The man smiled, his eyes twinkling with an intelligence that made Lily feel as though he could see right through her. Sometimes, the most heroic acts are the ones we do every day, without fanfare or recognition. Tell me, Lily, have you ever considered a career beyond these walls? Lily's brow furrowed in confusion. I'm sorry, do I know you? The man chuckled, reaching into his pocket and pulling out a business card. Not yet, but I have a feeling that's about to change. My name is Harold Jameson, and I think you and I have much to discuss. As Lily took the card, her eyes widened in recognition. Harold Jameson was a name she had seen in the newspapers, a philanthropist and businessman known for his ethical practices and charitable work. Mr. Jameson, I don't understand, Lily stammered. Harold's eyes twinkled with mischief and kindness. Let's just say I have a proposition for you, Lily Thompson. One that could change not only your life, but the lives of many others. Are you interested in hearing more? As Lily stood there, Harold Jameson's business card in one hand and Alexander Blackwood's $100 bill in the other, she felt as though she was standing on the precipice of something monumental. Little did she know, this moment would be the catalyst for a journey that would challenge everything she thought she knew about herself, the world of wealth and power, and the true meaning of success. The stage was set, the players were in motion, and Lily Thompson's life was about to change in ways she could never have imagined. The humble waitress from Joe's Diner was about to step into a world of intrigue, ambition, and unexpected alliances, a world where her kindness and integrity would be her greatest weapons against those who sought to break her spirit. As the sun began to set on another day in New York City, casting long shadows across the bustling streets, Lily Thompson stood at a crossroads. The weight of Harold Jameson's business card in her pocket felt like a key to a door she never knew existed. But was she ready to turn that key? Was she prepared for the challenges and changes that lay ahead? With a deep breath, Lily made her decision. She was ready to fight not just for herself, but for her family and for everyone who had ever been looked down upon or treated as less than. The journey ahead would be difficult, filled with obstacles and unexpected twists, but Lily Thompson was ready to face it head-on. Little did she know, her story was just beginning, a tale of triumph over adversity, of kindness conquering cruelty, and of a waitress who would soon leave the world speechless. The New York City twilight painted the sky in hues of orange and purple as Lily Thompson left Joe's Diner, her mind whirling with the day's events. The weight of Harold Jameson's business card in her pocket felt like a beacon of hope, a lifeline thrown to her in the choppy seas of her life. As she walked home, the bustling city streets faded into the background of her thoughts. The cruel words of Alexander and Victoria Blackwood still echoed in her ears, but they were overshadowed by the kind, enigmatic offer from Harold Jameson. What could a man of his stature possibly want with a simple waitress like her? Lost in thought, Lily almost missed the rundown apartment building she called home. As she climbed the creaky stairs, the familiar sounds of her neighbors' lives filtered through thin walls, a baby crying, a couple arguing, the tinny sound of an old television. It was a stark reminder of the life she was fighting so hard to improve. "Lily? Is that you?" Her mother's weak voice called out as she entered their small apartment. "Yes, Mom. I'm home," Lily replied, forcing cheerfulness into her voice as she made her way to her mother's bedside. Sarah Thompson looked frilier than ever, her once vibrant face now gaunt and pale. The sight made Lily's heart clench with worry and determination. "How was work today, sweetheart?" Sarah asked, her eyes bright with interest despite her exhaustion. Lily hesitated, unsure of how much to share. "It was interesting," she finally said, sitting on the edge of the bed. "Mom, something happened today. Something that might change everything for us." As Lily recounted the day's events, the humiliation from the Blackwoods, the unexpected kindness of Harold Jameson, her mother listened intently, her expression a mix of concern and hope. "Oh, Lily," Sarah sighed when she finished. "You've always been so strong, facing the world with kindness no matter how cruel it can be. But this Mr. Jameson, are you sure you can trust him?" Lily pulled out the business card, running her thumb over the embossed letters. "I'm not sure of anything, Mom. But I feel like this might be the chance we've been waiting for. For a better life, for your treatments." A gentle hand on her arm stopped her. "Lily, listen to me," Sarah said, her voice firm despite its weakness. "You are more than enough, just as you are. Don't let anyone make you feel like you need to change to be worthy. But if this is an opportunity you want to pursue, then do it with your head held high. Show them all what Lily Thompson is made of." Tears pricked at Lily's eyes as she leaned down to hug her mother. "I love you, Mom. I promise, whatever happens, I'll make you proud." Later that evening, after helping Emily with her homework and ensuring her mother was comfortable for the night, Lily sat at their small kitchen table, Harold Jameson's card before her. With trembling fingers, she dialed the number. "Jameson Industries, how may I direct your call?" a crisp voice answered. I'm calling for Mr. Harold Jameson," Lily stammered. "My name is Lily Thompson. He gave me his card today at Joe's Diner." There was a pause, then, "One moment please, Ms. Thompson." Lily's heart raced as she waited, her palms sweating. What was she doing? Was she crazy to think that? "Lily! I'm so glad you called." Harold Jameson's warm voice suddenly filled the line. "I was hoping to hear from you." "Mr. Jameson, thank you for speaking with me," Lily managed. "I've been thinking about what you said at the diner. About having a proposition for me?" "Indeed, my dear. And please, call me Harold. Now, tell me, how would you like to change the world?" For the next hour, Lily listened in awe as Harold laid out his vision. Jameson Industries, it turned out, was more than just a successful business. It was a force for change, working to create opportunities for those whose society often overlooked. "You see, Lily," Harold explained, his voice passionate, "I've been watching you. The way you handle yourself, your kindness, your strength in the face of adversity. These are qualities that can't be taught, and they're exactly what we need." "But Mr. Harold," Lily interjected, "I'm just a waitress. I don't have any special skills or education dash." "You have something far more valuable," Harold cut in gently. "You have heart. And with the right opportunity, I believe you could make a real difference. Not just for yourself and your family, but for countless others who are struggling just like you are." As Harold continued to explain his proposal, a job at Jameson Industries, training, education, and a chance to be part of something bigger than herself, Lily felt a mix of excitement and trepidation. It seemed too good to be true. "Why me?" she finally asked. "Out of all the people you could choose, why a waitress from a small diner?" There was a pause, and when Harold spoke again, his voice was soft with emotion. "Because, Lily, you remind me of someone. Someone who started with nothing but a dream and a determination to make the world a little bit better. Someone who never let adversity dim their light. That someone was me, many years ago. And now, I want to give you the chance that someone once gave me." As the call ended, Lily sat in stunned silence, her mind reeling with possibilities. She had a choice to make: stay in the comfort of the familiar, or take a leap into the unknown. Both paths were fraught with challenges, but one held the promise of something more. The next morning, Lily woke before dawn, her decision made. As she helped her mother get ready for the day, she shared her plans. "Are you sure about this, honey?" Sarah asked, her eyes searching Lily's face. Lily nodded, a determined smile on her lips. I am, Mom. I have to try. For us, for Emily, for everyone who's ever been told they're not good enough. As Lily walked to Joe's diner for what might be the last time, the city seemed different somehow. The same streets she had walked countless times before now felt full of possibility. Joe was already there when she arrived, his gruff exterior softening at the sight of her. You're here early, kid. Everything all right? Lily took a deep breath. Joe, I need to talk to you. Something's happened, and I think I'm going to be leaving the diner. For a moment, Joe was silent, his bushy eyebrows furrowed. Then, to Lily's surprise, he broke into a wide grin. About damn time, Lily. I always knew you were meant for bigger things than serving coffee and pie. Tears pricked at Lily's eyes as Joe enveloped her in a bear hug. You've been like a father to me, Joe. I don't know how to thank you for everything. You thank me by going out there and showing the world what you're made of, Joe said gruffly, his own eyes suspiciously moist. And don't you forget about us little people when you're up there with the big shots, you hear? As Lily left the diner, her heart full of gratitude and excitement, she didn't notice the sleek black car parked across the street. Inside, Alexander Blackwood watched her with narrowed eyes, his cell phone pressed to his ear. Yes, it's confirmed, he said to the person on the other end. Jameson's made his move. Time to put our plan into action. Little did Lily know, her journey was about to become far more complicated than she could have ever imagined. As she stepped into the gleaming lobby of Jameson Industries later that day, she was walking into a world of hidden agendas, unexpected allies, and enemies lurking in the shadows. The humble waitress from Joe's diner was about to be thrust into a high-stakes game of power and influence. But Lily Thompson had something that her adversaries didn't count on, an unbreakable spirit and a heart of gold. And in the world she was about to enter, those might just be the most powerful weapons of all. As Lily rode the elevator to the top floor of Jameson Industries, her heart pounding with a mix of excitement and nerves, she couldn't shake the feeling that her life was about to change in ways she could never have predicted. The doors opened with a soft ding, revealing a bustling office floor filled with people in smart business attire. Ms. Thompson? A young woman with a friendly smile approached her. I'm Jessica, Mr. Jameson's assistant. He's expecting you. Right this way, please. As Jessica led her through the office, Lily couldn't help but feel out of place in her simple blouse and skirt. The sleek, modern decor and the confident strides of the employees around her were a far cry from the cozy familiarity of Joe's diner. "Ah, Lily. Welcome." Harold Jameson's warm voice snapped her out of her thoughts as they entered his spacious office. The kind-faced man she had met at the diner now exuded an aura of quiet power and authority in this setting. "Thank you, Jessica. That'll be all for now." As Jessica left, closing the door behind her, Harold gestured for Lily to take a seat. "I'm so glad you decided to accept my offer, Lily. I have a feeling you're going to do great things here." Lily smiled nervously, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. "Thank you for this opportunity, Mr. Jameson. I have to admit, I'm a little overwhelmed." Harold's eyes twinkled with understanding. "That's perfectly natural, my dear. But I want you to remember something, you earned this. Your kindness, your resilience, your unwavering integrity in the face of cruelty, these are rare qualities in this world, Lily. And they're exactly what we need here at Jameson Industries." As Harold began to outline her role and the training program she would be undertaking, Lily felt a spark of confidence ignite within her. This was her chance to make a real difference, not just for herself and her family, but for others who had been overlooked and underestimated. What Lily didn't know was that at that very moment, in a luxurious penthouse across the city, Alexander Blackwood was pacing furiously, his face twisted with anger. "How dare that old fool interfere," he snarled, slamming his fist on his ornate desk. "Doesn't he know who he's dealing with?" Victoria Blackwood lounged on a plush sofa, watching her husband with a mixture of amusement and disdain. "Darling, don't tell me you're actually worried about some little waitress? Surely she's no match for us." Alexander whirled to face his wife, his eyes blazing. "You don't understand, Victoria. Jameson's been a thorn in my side for years, always interfering with my business deals, pushing for those ridiculous ethical practices. If he's taken an interest in this girl, it can only mean trouble for us." Victoria rose gracefully, sauntering over to her husband. "Then we'll just have to make sure this little Cinderella story doesn't have a happy ending, won't we? After all, we have resources, connections." "What does she have? A kind heart?" She laughed derisively. "In our world, that's a weakness, not a strength." As Alexander's frown morphed into a calculating smile, the wheels of a sinister plan began to turn. Little did they know, they were underestimating not just Lily, but the power of genuine kindness and integrity in a world often devoid of both. Back at Jameson Industries, Lily's first week flew by in a whirlwind of training sessions, introductions, and new experiences. Despite the initial overwhelm, she threw herself into her work with the same dedication and warmth she had shown at the diner. Her coworkers, initially skeptical of the waitress-turned-executive trainee, soon found themselves drawn to Lily's genuine nature and quick mind. Even Jessica, who had at first kept a professional distance, began to warm up to her. "You know," Jessica confided one day over lunch, "when Mr. Jameson first told me he was bringing in someone with no corporate experience, I thought he'd lost his mind. But I have to admit, Lily, you've got something special." Lily blushed at the compliment. "I'm just trying my best. Everyone here has been so kind and helpful." Jessica's expression turned serious. "Not everyone will be, Lily. This world, it can be cutthroat. There are people out there who will see your kindness as a weakness and try to exploit it. You need to be careful." Before Lily could respond, her phone buzzed with a text from Emily, "Mom's not feeling well. Doctor says we need to bring her in. Can you come home?" Lily's heart dropped, the excitement of her new life suddenly overshadowed by the harsh reality of her family's struggles. I have to go," she stammered, gathering her things. "It's my mom, she's dash." "Go," Jessica said firmly. "I'll cover for you with Mr. Jameson. Family comes first." As Lily rushed out of the building, her mind racing with worry, she didn't notice the sleek black car that pulled out into traffic behind her, following at a discreet distance. At the hospital, Lily found Emily pacing anxiously in the waiting room. "They took her in for tests," her sister explained, her young face etched with worry. "The doctor said something about her condition worsening." Lily pulled Emily into a tight hug, her own fears threatening to overwhelm her. "It's going to be okay," she whispered, as much to herself as to her sister. "We're going to get through this." Hours passed in an agonizing blur of tests, consultations, and hushed conversations with doctors. When they were finally allowed to see their mother, Lily's heart broke at how small and fragile Sarah looked in the hospital bed. "My brave girls," Sarah said weakly, reaching out to hold their hands. "Don't you worry about me. I'm tougher than I look." Lily forced a smile, pushing down her own fears. "We know, Mom. You're the strongest person we know." As they sat there, the beeping of machines a constant reminder of their mother's fragile state, Lily felt the weight of her new responsibilities more keenly than ever. She had been given an incredible opportunity, but at what cost? How could she balance her new career with her family's needs? What Lily didn't realize was that this moment of vulnerability was being carefully observed. In the hallway outside, a man in a nondescript suit spoke quietly into his phone. "Mr. Blackwood?" "Yes, I've confirmed it. The mother is seriously ill. It seems our little waitress has a weak spot after all." As night fell over the city, casting long shadows and painting the sky in shades of deep blue and purple, Lily found herself standing at a crossroads. The glittering promise of her new life at Jameson Industries now seemed in stark contrast to the harsh realities of her family's struggles. But as she looked at her sleeping mother and sister, Lily felt a renewed sense of determination. She had been given this chance for a reason, and she would not let her family down. Whatever challenges lay ahead, whatever obstacles the Blackwoods or anyone else might throw in her path, Lily Thompson was ready to face them head-on. Little did she know, the true test of her strength, her kindness, and her integrity was just beginning. The game of power and influence she had unwittingly entered was about to become far more dangerous and personal than she could have ever imagined. As the city lights twinkled outside the hospital window, Lily made a silent vow. She would succeed, not just for herself, but for her family, for Harold Jameson who had believed in her, and for everyone who had ever been told they weren't good enough. The humble waitress from Joe's Diner was about to show the world what true strength looked like. The stage was set, the players were in motion, and Lily Thompson's journey from ridiculed waitress to a force to be reckoned with was about to take an unexpected and thrilling turn. The world that had once looked down on her was about to be left speechless by her unwavering spirit and her heart of gold. The early morning sun cast a golden glow over New York City as Lily Thompson made her way to Jameson Industries. Dark circles under her eyes betrayed the sleepless nights she'd spent at her mother's hospital bedside, but her stride was determined, her chin held high. As she entered the gleaming lobby, Lily's mind raced with the challenges ahead. Her mother's condition had stabilized, but the doctor's prognosis was grim without expensive experimental treatments. The weight of this knowledge pressed heavily on her shoulders, but it also fueled her determination to succeed in her new role. "Good morning, Lily," Jessica greeted her as she stepped off the elevator. "Mr. Jameson wants to see you in his office right away." Lily's heart skipped a beat. Had her absence been noticed? Was she already failing at this opportunity she'd been given? Taking a deep breath to steady herself, she knocked on Harold Jameson's office door. "Ah, Lily. Come in, Harold's warm voice called out. As she entered, she was surprised to see not just Harold, but a room full of executives in sharp suits, all eyes turning to her. "Gentlemen, ladies, I'd like you to meet Lily Thompson," Harold announced, a proud smile on his face. "Lily, I know this is sudden, but we have a situation that I believe you're uniquely qualified to handle." For the next hour, Lily listened in astonishment as Harold laid out the details of a crisis facing one of Jameson Industries' charitable initiatives. A community center in an underprivileged neighborhood was on the verge of closing due to lack of funds and community support. "The board wants to pull our funding," one of the executives explained, his tone resigned. "They say it's a lost cause." Harold's eyes locked with Lily's. "But I believe it's not. Lily, I want you to take point on this project. Save this community center. Show us what you can do." Lily's mind reeled. This was far beyond anything she'd expected or trained for. But as she looked around the room, seeing the mixture of skepticism and curiosity on the faces of the executives, something inside her steeled. "I'll do it," she said, her voice steadier than she felt. "Just tell me where to start." As the meeting adjourned and the executives filed out, many of them eyeing Lily with newfound interest, Harold held her back. "Lily, I know this is a lot to ask, especially with your mother's condition," he said softly, concern evident in his eyes. Lily swallowed hard. "How did you dash?" "I make it my business to know what's happening with my people," Harold said gently. "Your family's medical bills have been taken care of." Consider it in advance on the bonus you'll earn when you succeed in this project." Tears pricked at Lily's eyes, but she blinked them back. "Thank you, Mr. Jameson. I won't let you down." As Lily left Harold's office, her mind buzzing with plans and possibilities, she didn't notice the pair of eyes watching her from across the office floor. Thomas Reed, one of the junior executives who had been in the meeting, pulled out his phone and dialed a number. "Mr. Blackwood? You were right. Jameson's put the girl in charge of the Riverside Community Center project." "Yes, I understand. I'll keep you informed." Across town, in his opulent office, Alexander Blackwood hung up the phone, a cold smile playing on his lips. "Oh, Harold," he muttered. "You've made this almost too easy." Over the next few weeks, Lily threw herself into the community center project with all the passion and determination that had defined her life. She spent her days at Jameson Industries, poring over budgets and outreach strategies, and her evenings at the Riverside Community Center, getting to know the people whose lives were touched by its programs. It was during one of these evenings that Lily met Carlos, a young man whose life had been turned around by the center's youth programs. His story of transformation from a troubled teen to a community leader touched Lily deeply. "This place," Carlos said, gesturing around the worn but welcoming space, "it's more than just a building. It's hope. It's family. If it closes..." He trailed off, unable to finish the thought. Lily placed a comforting hand on his shoulder. "It won't close, Carlos. I promise you that." As she made her way home that night, Lily's mind was filled with ideas. She knew that to save the center, she needed to do more than just crunch numbers. She needed to tell its story, to make people see its value the way she now did. The next day, Lily presented her plan to Harold and the board. Her passion was palpable as she laid out a comprehensive strategy that went beyond mere fundraising. She proposed partnerships with local businesses, a media campaign showcasing success stories like Carlos, and a community-driven renovation project to breathe new life into the center. As she finished her presentation, the room was silent for a moment. Then, to her surprise, applause broke out. Even the most skeptical board members looked impressed. "Well done, Lily," Harold beamed. "I think we've found our solution. The board approves your plan. Make it happen." As Lily left the boardroom, her heart soaring with triumph, she was intercepted by Thomas Reed. "Impressive work in there, Lily," he said, his smile not quite reaching his eyes. "Let me know if you need any help with the execution. I have some connections that might be useful." Lily thanked him politely, but something about his offer made her uneasy. She brushed it off as nerves and focused on the task ahead. Over the next few months, Lily worked tirelessly to bring her vision for the community center to life. She negotiated partnerships, organized fundraisers, and spent countless hours at the center, getting her hands dirty with renovation work alongside community volunteers. Her efforts began to pay off. Donations started pouring in, local businesses stepped up with support, and the center buzzed with renewed energy and hope. Lily's innovative approaches and genuine care for the community didn't go unnoticed. Local media picked up the story, praising Jameson Industries for their commitment to social responsibility. But as Lily's star rose, dark clouds were gathering on the horizon. In his luxurious penthouse, Alexander Blackwood watched a news report showcasing Lily's success with growing anger. "This has gone on long enough," he snarled, turning to Victoria. "It's time we reminded little Miss Thompson of her place." Victoria's eyes gleamed with malice. "Leave it to me, darling. I have just the thing to bring our little Cinderella back to reality." The next day, as Lily arrived at the community center for the grand reopening celebration, she was met with a scene of chaos. Police cars surrounded the building, and a crowd of angry protesters waved signs accusing the center of misusing funds. What's going on? Lily asked in shock, pushing through the crowd to find Carlos. Carlos's face was ashen. Lily, it's bad. Someone's accused us of embezzling funds. They're saying the whole renovation was a front for money laundering. The police are investigating everything. Lily's world spun. This couldn't be happening. Not now, not when they were so close to success. As reporters swarmed around her, shoving microphones in her face and demanding answers, Lily caught sight of a familiar face in the crowd. Victoria Blackwood stood at a distance, a triumphant smirk playing on her lips as she watched the chaos unfold. Their eyes met for a brief moment, and in that instant, Lily understood. This was no accident. This was war. As the police escorted her away for questioning, Lily's mind raced. Everything she had worked for, everything she had built, was crumbling around her. But even as fear and doubt threatened to overwhelm her, a small voice inside her refused to give up. She thought of her mother, fighting bravely against her illness. She thought of Emily, looking up to her with admiration. She thought of Carlos and all the others at the community center whose lives had been changed. And she thought of Harold Jameson, who had believed in her when no one else did. No, Lily Thompson was not going to go down without a fight. The Blackwoods had underestimated her once before, when she was just a waitress in a diner. They were about to learn that the woman she had become was a force to be reckoned with. As the police car pulled away from the community center, Lily's eyes hardened with determination. The battle for her reputation, for the community center, and for everything she believed in was just beginning. And this time, she was ready. Little did the Blackwoods know, their attempt to destroy Lily had only ignited a fire within her that would soon engulf their carefully constructed world of power and privilege. The humble waitress they had once ridiculed was about to show them, and the world, what true strength looked like. The coming days would test Lily's resolve like never before. But with her unwavering integrity, her compassion, and the support of those whose lives she had touched, Lily Thompson was about to turn the tables on her powerful adversaries in a way that would leave them, and the entire city, speechless. As the police station came into view, Lily took a deep breath, steeling herself for the battle ahead. She may have been knocked down, but Lily Thompson was far from out. The real fight was just beginning. Back at Jameson Industries, Harold Jameson paced his office, his face etched with concern as he watched the news reports of the scandal unfolding at the Riverside Community Center. He had always known that Lily's rise would ruffle some feathers, but he hadn't anticipated such a vicious attack. "Get me everything we have on the Blackwoods," he barked into his phone. "Every deal, every transaction, every skeleton in their closet. It's time we fight fire with fire." As night fell over New York City, the stage was set for a showdown that would shake the foundations of power and redefine what it meant to be truly successful in a world that often confused wealth with worth. In her small apartment, Emily huddled close to their mother's bedside, both of them watching the news with tears in their eyes. "Mom," Emily whispered, "do you think Lily will be okay?" Sarah Thompson reached out a weak hand to stroke her younger daughter's hair. "Your sister is the strongest person I know, Emily. If anyone can turn this around, it's Lily. We just have to have faith." Meanwhile, in a dimly lit bar across town, Joe wiped down the counter, his eyes fixed on the television above. The image of Lily being led away by police made his blood boil. He may have just been a diner owner, but Joe had connections of his own, connections he had never felt the need to use until now. Picking up his phone, Joe dialed a number he hadn't called in years. "Hey, Mickey? It's Joe. Remember that favor you owe me? I'm calling it in. There's a girl named Lily Thompson who needs our help." As the city settled into an uneasy sleep, the pieces were moving into place for a battle that would test loyalties, challenge perceptions, and ultimately reveal the true power of kindness and integrity in a world that had all but forgotten their worth. Lily Thompson, the once ridiculed waitress, was about to become the catalyst for a change that would ripple through the very heart of New York City's elite. The Blackwoods had started this war, but Lily, with her newfound allies and her unbreakable spirit, was determined to finish it. The coming dawn would bring with it challenges Lily had never imagined facing. But it would also bring opportunities to prove that true strength comes not from wealth or status, but from the courage to stand up for what's right, no matter the cost. As she sat in the stark interrogation room, waiting for the detectives to return, Lily closed her eyes and took a deep breath. She thought of all the people counting on her, her family, the community center, Harold Jameson, and even herself. She had come too far to give up now. Opening her eyes, Lily straightened her shoulders and lifted her chin. Whatever questions they threw at her, whatever accusations they made, she would face them with the same grace and determination that had brought her this far. Little did she know, as she prepared to defend herself against the Blackwoods' false accusations, that a network of support was already mobilizing on her behalf. From the highest offices of Jameson Industries to the humble kitchens of Joe's Diner, people whose lives Lily had touched were rallying to her cause. The battle lines were drawn, and the city held its breath, waiting to see how this modern-day David would fare against the Goliath of corporate greed and corruption. But those who knew Lily Thompson, truly knew her, had no doubt. The waitress who had once been ridiculed was about to show the world the true meaning of success, and leave everyone speechless in the process. As the first light of dawn broke over the New York skyline, Lily Thompson squared her shoulders, ready to face whatever the new day would bring. The real fight was just beginning, and she was determined to see it through to the end. The interrogation room door opened, and two stern-faced detectives entered. Lily met their gaze steadily, her voice clear and unwavering as she spoke. "I'm ready to answer your questions. But first, let me tell you about the Riverside Community Center and the lives it's changed." And with those words, Lily began to weave a story of hope, resilience, and community that would soon captivate not just the detectives, but the entire city. The humble waitress was about to show the world that the most powerful weapon against corruption and greed was not money or influence, but the simple, unshakable truth. As Lily's story unfolded, a spark of doubt began to flicker in the detectives' eyes. They had come expecting to find a guilty, cowering suspect. Instead, they found themselves face to face with a woman of extraordinary integrity and passion. "Ms. Thompson," one of the detectives finally interrupted, his voice gruff but tinged with a newfound respect, "your dedication to this community center is admirable. But we have evidence of large sums of money being moved around in ways that don't add up. Can you explain that?" Lily's brow furrowed in confusion. "I've been completely transparent with all our finances. Every donation, every expense has been meticulously documented. If there's something that doesn't add up, it's not from our end." As the questioning continued, Lily's mind raced. She knew she was innocent, but someone had gone to great lengths to make it appear otherwise. The pieces started to fall into place, the timing of the accusation, the swift police action, the media frenzy. This was no random investigation. This was a carefully orchestrated attack. Meanwhile, across town, Harold Jameson was burning the midnight oil, poring over documents with a team of lawyers and financial experts. The more they dug, the clearer the picture became. "Sir," one of the junior lawyers spoke up, his voice trembling with excitement, "I think we've found something. Look at these transactions." Harold's eyes widened as he examined the evidence before him. A slow smile spread across his face. Well, Alexander," he murmured. "You've overplayed your hand this time." As the sun rose higher in the sky, casting long shadows across the city streets, the tide began to turn. Joe's mysterious phone call had set in motion a chain of events that was about to blow the case wide open. At the police station, a commotion erupted as a group of community members, led by Carlos, burst through the doors. They carried boxes of documents, testimonials, and irrefutable evidence of the center's positive impact and financial transparency. "You can't hold her," Carlos demanded, his voice ringing with passion. "Lily Thompson is the reason our community has hope again. We won't stand by and watch her be punished for something she didn't do." The detectives, overwhelmed by the outpouring of support and the mountain of evidence, had no choice but to release Lily. As she stepped out of the police station, blinking in the bright sunlight, she was met with a sea of familiar faces, community members, co-workers, and even some of the executives from Jameson Industries. But the battle was far from over. Even as Lily embraced her supporters, her mind was already working on the next steps. The Blackwoods had shown their hand, and now it was time to call their bluff. Across town, in their luxurious penthouse, Alexander and Victoria Blackwood were watching the news with growing alarm. Their carefully laid plan was unraveling before their eyes. "This is impossible," Alexander sputtered, his face red with fury. "How could that little nobody turn this around so quickly?" Victoria's eyes narrowed as she watched Lily on the screen, surrounded by her supporters. "We underestimated her, Alexander," she hissed. "She's not just some waitress anymore. She's become a symbol." Alexander paced the room, his mind racing. "This isn't over," he growled. "We still have cards to play. Get me on the phone with our friends at the Securities and Exchange Commission. It's time to put some real pressure on Jameson Industries." But even as the Blackwoods plotted their next move, Lily was already one step ahead. In the days that followed her release, she worked tirelessly to clear her name and protect the community center. With Harold Jameson's backing and the community's support, she organized a town hall meeting to address the accusations head-on. The local community center was packed to the brim, with news cameras lining the back of the room. Lily stood at the podium, her heart pounding but her voice steady as she addressed the crowd. "I stand before you today not just as an employee of Jameson Industries, but as someone who has seen firsthand the power of community and second chances," Lily began. "The accusations made against the center are not just false, they're an attack on every person who has found hope and opportunity within these walls." As Lily spoke, sharing stories of lives changed and dreams realized, the room fell silent. Even the most skeptical reporters found themselves captivated by her sincerity and passion. But the real bombshell came when Harold Jameson took the stage. With a grim smile, he revealed the results of his team's investigation. "Ladies and gentlemen," he announced, his voice ringing with controlled anger, "we have uncovered evidence of a deliberate attempt to sabotage not just the Riverside Community Center, but Jameson Industries itself." The source of this attack? None other than Blackwood Enterprises. A gasp rippled through the crowd. Cameras flashed as Harold laid out the evidence: falsified documents, manipulated financial records, and a trail of bribes that led straight to Alexander Blackwood's door. As the meeting adjourned, the news spread like wildfire. Within hours, Blackwood Enterprises' stock was in freefall, and Alexander found himself facing a barrage of questions from angry shareholders and investigative journalists. Back at the community center, Lily stood surrounded by her supporters, a mix of emotions swirling within her. They had won this battle, but she knew the war was far from over. The Blackwoods wouldn't go down without a fight, and there were still challenges ahead for the center and for Jameson Industries. But as she looked around at the faces of those she had fought for, Carlos beaming with pride, community members hugging each other in relief, and Harold Jameson nodding at her with respect, Lily felt a surge of determination. She thought back to that day in the diner when Alexander Blackwood had sneered at her, asking if she didn't dream of being more than just a waitress. If only he could see her now. As the sun set on this tumultuous day, casting a warm glow over the city, Lily Thompson stood tall, no longer just a waitress, no longer just an executive trainee, but a force for change in her own right. She had faced down one of the most powerful men in the city and emerged victorious, armed with nothing but her integrity, compassion, and the strength of her community. The humble waitress who had once been ridiculed had indeed left them all speechless. But Lily knew this was just the beginning. There were more battles to fight, more lives to change, and a whole city waiting to be shown the true meaning of success. As she walked home that evening, exhausted but exhilarated, Lily couldn't help but smile. Whatever challenges tomorrow might bring, she was ready to face them head-on. After all, she was Lily Thompson, the waitress who conquered. The New York City skyline glittered in the early morning light as Lily Thompson stood at the window of her new office at Jameson Industries. The view was breathtaking, a far cry from the cramped apartment she had called home just months ago. But as she gazed out at the city below, Lily felt a familiar pang of uncertainty. Her victory over the Blackwoods had catapulted her into the spotlight. Overnight, she had become a symbol of hope for the underdogs, a David who had taken on Goliath and won. The media couldn't get enough of her story, the waitress turned corporate executive who had exposed corruption and saved a community center. But with this newfound fame came new pressures and expectations. Lily turned from the window, her eyes falling on the stack of invitations and requests piled on her desk. Everyone wanted a piece of her: talk shows, charity galas, motivational speaking engagements. It was overwhelming. A soft knock on the door interrupted her thoughts. "Come in," Lily called out. Jessica, Harold Jameson's assistant, entered with a warm smile. "Good morning, Lily. Mr. Jameson would like to see you in the conference room. The board is assembling for an emergency meeting." Lily's heart skipped a beat. Despite her recent triumph, she still felt like an imposter in this world of corporate power plays. "Did he say what it's about?" Jessica shook her head. "No, but it seems urgent." "And Lily?" She paused at the door. "Don't forget to breathe. You've earned your place here." As Lily made her way to the conference room, she couldn't shake the feeling that something big was about to happen. The corridor buzzed with hushed whispers and furtive glances. When she entered the room, the tension was palpable. Harold Jameson sat at the head of the table, his usually jovial face etched with concern. Around him, board members and executives murmured among themselves, falling silent as Lily took her seat. "Thank you all for coming on such short notice," Harold began, his voice grave. "As you're aware, our exposure of Blackwood Enterprises' illegal activities has had far-reaching consequences. This morning, we received word that the Securities and Exchange Commission is launching a full-scale investigation into the entire industry." A ripple of unease passed through the room. Lily's mind raced. While Jameson Industries had come out as the whistleblower, she knew that in the cutthroat world of high finance, few companies had completely clean hands. Harold continued, "In light of this, the board has decided that we need to take proactive measures to ensure our own house is in order. We're initiating a comprehensive internal audit of all our operations and partnerships." His eyes met Lily's, and she felt a weight settle on her shoulders. "Lily, given your instrumental role in uncovering the Blackwood scandal and your unique perspective on ethical business practices, I'd like you to lead this audit." The room fell silent. Lily could feel the eyes of every board member boring into her. This wasn't just a task, it was a test. A chance to prove that her victory over the Blackwoods wasn't a fluke, that she truly belonged in this world. "I'd be honored, Mr. Jameson," Lily said, her voice steadier than she felt. "Where do you suggest I start?" A small smile tugged at Harold's lips. "That, my dear, is entirely up to you. You'll have full access to all our records and personnel. I trust your judgment." As the meeting adjourned, Lily felt a mix of excitement and trepidation. This was an opportunity to make real, lasting change in the corporate world. But she wasn't naive, she knew that digging too deep could unearth secrets that powerful people would prefer to keep buried. Over the next few weeks, Lily threw herself into the audit with the same determination and integrity that had defined her fight against the Blackwoods. She pored over financial records, conducted interviews with employees at all levels, and followed every lead, no matter how small. As she delved deeper, Lily began to uncover discrepancies, nothing as blatant as the Blackwoods' corruption, but ethical gray areas that made her uncomfortable. Offshore accounts, questionable partnerships, environmental regulations skirted but not quite broken. Each discovery felt like a personal betrayal. Jameson Industries had been her salvation, a beacon of hope in a world that had often been cruel. To find that it wasn't as squeaky clean as she had believed was disheartening. But Lily was nothing if not resilient. She reminded herself that true integrity meant facing hard truths and making difficult decisions. With each issue she uncovered, she worked tirelessly to find ethical solutions, to push for change from within. Her efforts didn't go unnoticed. Many of the younger employees rallied around her, inspired by her commitment to doing what was right. But others, particularly some of the older executives, viewed her with growing resentment. They saw her as a threat to the status quo, a naive idealist who didn't understand the realities of big business. One evening, as Lily was working late in her office, she received an unexpected visitor. Thomas Reed, the junior executive who had once offered to help her, slipped into her office without knocking. "Working hard, I see," he said, his tone casual but his eyes sharp. "You know, Lily, you're making quite a stir around here. Not everyone appreciates having their methods questioned." Lily met his gaze steadily. "I'm just doing my job, Thomas. Mr. Jameson asked for a thorough audit, and that's what I'm delivering." Thomas leaned in, his voice dropping to a whisper. "Let me give you some friendly advice. There are some stones better left unturned. You've had your moment in the sun with the Blackwood takedown. Don't push your luck." As he left, Lily felt a chill run down her spine. It was a reminder that even here, in a company she had come to see as a force for good, there were those who prioritized profit over ethics. But instead of intimidating her, Thomas's veiled threat only strengthened Lily's resolve. She thought of Carlos and the community center, of her mother fighting her illness, of Emily looking up to her as a role model. She wouldn't let them down. The next morning, Lily marched into Harold Jameson's office, her arms full of files and her heart pounding with determination. "Mr. Jameson," she said, her voice clear and unwavering, "I've completed the first phase of the audit. There's something you need to see." As she laid out her findings, Lily saw a range of emotions flit across Harold's face: surprise, disappointment, and finally, a grim sort of pride. "You've done excellent work, Lily," he said when she finished. "More thorough than I think anyone expected. The question is, what do we do with this information?" Lily took a deep breath. This was the moment of truth. "We clean house," she said firmly. "We make things right, no matter how difficult or costly it might be in the short term. It's the only way to ensure Jameson Industries stands for something more than just profit." Harold was silent for a long moment, studying her with an unreadable expression. Finally, he nodded. "You're right, of course. It won't be easy, but it's the right thing to do. Prepare a presentation for the board. It's time we set a new standard for corporate ethics in this city." As Lily left Harold's office, she felt a mix of relief and apprehension. She had won this battle, but she knew the war was far from over. The coming days would test her resolve like never before. Across town, in a dimly lit bar, Alexander Blackwood nursed a drink, his once immaculate suit now rumpled, his eyes bloodshot. His empire was crumbling, his reputation in tatters. But as he watched the news report of Jameson Industries' impending major announcement, a spark of his old cunning flared to life. "So, little Lily thinks she's won," he muttered, a sinister smile playing on his lips. "She has no idea what's coming." As night fell over New York City, the stage was set for a showdown that would shake the foundations of the corporate world. Lily Thompson, the once ridiculed waitress, stood at the center of it all, armed with nothing but her integrity and the truth. The coming days would test her like never before, forcing her to confront not just external enemies, but her own doubts and fears. The price of her victory over the Blackwoods had been high, but the cost of this new battle could be even greater. But as Lily prepared for the fight ahead, she felt a sense of peace. No matter what happened, she knew she was doing the right thing. And in a world where money and power often trumped ethics, that was a victory in itself. Little did she know, the true test of her strength and character was yet to come. The humble waitress who had conquered adversity was about to face her greatest challenge yet, one that would leave not just her enemies, but the entire city, truly speechless. As Lily made her way home that evening, the weight of responsibility heavy on her shoulders, she couldn't help but reflect on how far she had come. From a struggling waitress to a corporate whistleblower, her journey had been nothing short of extraordinary. But with each step forward, the stakes seemed to grow higher. She thought of her mother, still fighting her illness but with renewed hope thanks to the treatments Lily could now afford. She thought of Emily, looking at her with a mixture of pride and worry. And she thought of the community center, thriving once again, a beacon of hope for so many. Lily knew that what she was about to do, exposing the ethical lapses within Jameson Industries, could jeopardize everything she had worked for. But she also knew that true integrity meant doing the right thing, even when it was difficult. Especially when it was difficult. As she entered her apartment, Lily was surprised to find Emily waiting for her, a serious expression on her young face. "Lily," Emily said, her voice trembling slightly, "I overheard Mom talking on the phone. Is it true? Are you really going to expose problems at Jameson Industries?" Lily sighed, sitting down next to her sister. "It's complicated, Em. But yes, I've found some things that aren't right, and I have to speak up about them." Emily's eyes widened with a mixture of awe and fear. "But won't that be dangerous? After everything with the Blackwoods?" Lily pulled her sister into a tight hug. "Sometimes doing the right thing is scary," she said softly. "But that doesn't make it any less important. Do you remember what Mom always told us?" Emily nodded against Lily's shoulder. "That our integrity is the one thing no one can take from us unless we let them." "Exactly," Lily smiled, feeling a surge of love and pride for her family. "And I'm not about to let anyone take that from me, or from us." As Emily drifted off to sleep that night, Lily sat at the kitchen table, poring over her notes one last time. Tomorrow would be the day of reckoning, the day she presented her findings to the board of Jameson Industries. Across the city, in the opulent Blackwood penthouse, Alexander paced restlessly, a tumbler of scotch in his hand. His phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. "It's done. The information you requested about Jameson's offshore accounts has been planted. When the audit goes public, it'll look like they're just as dirty as everyone else." A cold smile spread across Alexander's face. He might have lost the first round to Lily Thompson, but he was far from defeated. If he was going down, he was determined to take Jameson Industries, and that meddlesome former waitress, with him. As dawn broke over New York City, casting long shadows across the bustling streets, Lily Thompson stood in front of her mirror, straightening her jacket. The face that looked back at her was no longer that of an unsure waitress, but of a woman who had found her purpose and her strength. She thought of all the people counting on her, her family, the community center, the employees of Jameson Industries who believed in doing the right thing. With a deep breath, she picked up her briefcase and headed out the door. The board meeting was scheduled for 9 a.m. sharp. As Lily entered the imposing Jameson Industries building, she felt the weight of countless eyes upon her. Whispers followed her through the lobby, a mixture of admiration and apprehension. In the elevator, Thomas Reed stepped in, his usual smug expression replaced by one of barely concealed anxiety. "I hope you know what you're doing, Lily," he muttered as the doors closed. "There's still time to reconsider." Lily met his gaze steadily. "I know exactly what I'm doing, Thomas. The question is, do you?" As the elevator doors opened onto the executive floor, Lily stepped out with her head held high. Whatever challenges lay ahead, whatever schemes her enemies had concocted, she was ready to face them. The humble waitress who had once been ridiculed was about to shake the very foundations of corporate America. And in doing so, she would prove once and for all that true success comes not from wealth or power, but from the courage to stand up for what's right, no matter the cost. Little did Lily know, as she walked into the boardroom to face her destiny, that the events of this day would not only change her life forever but would send shockwaves through the entire city, leaving everyone, friends and foes alike, truly speechless. The Jameson Industries boardroom buzzed with tension as Lily Thompson took her place at the head of the long, polished table. The faces that looked back at her were a mix of curiosity, apprehension, and in some cases, barely concealed hostility. Lily's heart pounded in her chest, but her voice was steady as she began her presentation. "Ladies and gentlemen of the board," she started, her gaze sweeping across the room, "I want to thank you for this opportunity to present the findings of my audit. What I'm about to share with you will be difficult to hear, but I believe it's crucial for the future of Jameson Industries." As Lily delved into her report, detailing the ethical lapses and questionable practices she'd uncovered, she could see the shock and discomfort rippling through the room. Some board members shifted uneasily in their seats, while others leaned forward, their expressions intense. Harold Jameson sat silently, his face unreadable as he absorbed the information. Thomas Reed, on the other hand, couldn't hide his agitation, his fingers drumming in erratic rhythm on the table. Just as Lily was about to reveal her most significant finding, a series of offshore accounts that seemed designed to evade regulatory oversight, the boardroom doors burst open. A harried-looking assistant rushed in, whispering urgently in Harold's ear. Harold's face paled. "I'm sorry, Lily, but we need to pause this meeting. There's been a development." As if on cue, the large screen at the end of the room flickered to life, displaying a breaking news report. Lily's breath caught in her throat as she saw her own face splashed across the screen, alongside damning headlines. Jameson Industries implicated in massive financial scandal. Whistleblower Lily Thompson, hero or fraud? The reporter's voice filled the stunned silence of the boardroom. In a shocking turn of events, documents have surfaced implicating Jameson Industries in a web of financial misconduct that rivals the recent Blackwood scandal. At the center of the storm is Lily Thompson, the former waitress turned corporate executive who rose to fame for her role in exposing Blackwood enterprises. Sources close to the investigation suggest that Thompson may have been aware of these irregularities for months, raising questions about her true motives. Lily felt as if the floor had dropped out from beneath her. This couldn't be happening. She turned to Harold, her eyes wide with disbelief, but his expression had hardened into something unrecognizable. "Lily," he said, his voice cold, "I think you have some explaining to do." The next few hours passed in a blur of accusations, denials, and frantic damage control. Lily found herself sequestered in a small conference room, surrounded by a team of lawyers who fired questions at her relentlessly. Her mind raced, trying to understand how this could have happened. The evidence being presented against Jameson Industries, and against her, was a twisted version of her own. Findings, manipulated to paint the company in the worst possible light. As night fell over the city, Lily was finally allowed to leave, with strict instructions not to speak to anyone about the situation. As she stepped out of the Jameson Industries building, she was met by a wall of reporters and flashing cameras. "Ms. Thompson, is it true that you were complicit in Jameson's financial misdeeds?" "Lily!" How does it feel to go from hero to villain? Were you working with the Blackwoods all along? The questions came at her like physical blows. Lily pushed through the crowd, her head down, refusing to engage. It wasn't until she was safely in a taxi that she allowed the tears to fall. Back in her apartment, Lily found Emily and her mother waiting for her, their faces etched with worry. The television was on, still blaring news about the scandal. "Oh, Lily," her mother said, pulling her into a fierce hug. "We know you couldn't have done what they're saying. We believe in you." Emily nodded vigorously, her young face set with determination. "Yeah, we'll fight this, Lily. We'll show them all the truth." Lily managed a weak smile, touched by their unwavering support. But as she looked around their modest apartment, at the life she had worked so hard to build for her family, she felt a wave of despair. Everything she had accomplished, every battle she had won, seemed to be crumbling around her. As she lay in bed that night, sleep eluding her, Lily's mind raced with questions. Who could have planted that false information? How had her own findings been so thoroughly twisted? And most importantly, how could she fight back against such a massive smear campaign? The answer came to her in the early hours of the morning, as the first light of dawn began to creep through her window. She sat up suddenly, her heart pounding with a mix of fear and determination. There was only one person who could have orchestrated something like this, someone with the resources and the motive to destroy both her and Jameson Industries. Alexander Blackwood. With trembling hands, Lily reached for her phone. She hesitated for a moment, knowing that what she was about to do could change everything. Then, taking a deep breath, she dialed a number she never thought she'd use. Joe's Diner, a gruff, familiar voice answered. "Joe? It's Lily. I need your help." There was a pause, then Joe's voice softened. "I've been waiting for your call, kid. Tell me what you need." Over the next few days, as the media frenzy around the Jameson Industries scandal reached a fever pitch, a quiet revolution was brewing behind the scenes. Lily, operating out of Joe's Diner like a general planning a war, coordinated a network of allies she had never known she had. Carlos and his friends from the community center scoured social media, tracking down the sources of the false information. Emily, proving to be as tenacious as her sister, pored over financial records, looking for discrepancies that could prove Lily's innocence. And Joe, true to his word, called in favors from contacts across the city, former cops, journalists, and even a few reformed hackers. But their most unexpected ally came in the form of Jessica, Harold Jameson's assistant. Late one night, as Lily was hunched over a stack of documents in a back booth of the diner, Jessica slipped in, looking nervous but determined. "I've been doing some digging," she said in a low voice, sliding a USB drive across the table. "I think you'll find this interesting." The drive contained a treasure trove of information, emails, financial transactions, and recorded phone calls that painted a damning picture of collusion between Alexander Blackwood and several high-ranking executives at Jameson Industries, including Thomas Reed. Armed with this new evidence, Lily knew it was time to make her move. But she also knew that going public immediately could backfire. She needed a plan, a way to present the truth that would be impossible to ignore or discredit. It was Carlos who came up with the idea. "What if we don't just tell people the truth?" he suggested, his eyes gleaming with excitement. "What if we show them?" And so, on a rainy Thursday evening, as New Yorkers hurried home from work, every digital billboard in Times Square suddenly flickered and went dark. For a moment, the usually bustling intersection fell silent, people stopping in their tracks to stare at the massive blank screens. Then, Lily's face appeared on every screen, larger than life. "Good evening, New York," she began, her voice calm and clear. "My name is Lily Thompson, and I have a story to tell you. A story about greed, corruption, and the lengths some people will go to protect their power. But it's also a story about hope, about the strength of community, and about the power of truth to overcome even the most daunting odds. For the next hour, Lily laid out the entire saga, from her days as a waitress, through her battle with the Blackwoods, to the recent scandal that had threatened to destroy everything she had built. She presented the evidence Jessica had provided, unmasking the conspiracy between Blackwood and the corrupt executives at Jameson Industries. But more than just exposing the truth, Lily spoke from the heart about the values that had guided her every step of the way: integrity, compassion, and the belief that one person, no matter how humble their beginnings, could make a difference. As she spoke, something extraordinary began to happen. People who had stopped to watch in Times Square pulled out their phones, live-streaming the event to millions across the city and beyond. Social media exploded with hashtags supporting Lily, as viewers shared clips and transcripts of her speech. In his penthouse across town, Alexander Blackwood watched the broadcast with growing horror, his carefully constructed plan unraveling before his eyes. He reached for his phone, desperate to do damage control, only to find his calls going straight to voicemail. His so-called allies were already distancing themselves, leaving him to face the consequences alone. At Jameson Industries, Harold Jameson sat in his darkened office, a tumbler of scotch untouched before him. As he listened to Lily's words, he felt a mix of emotions: shame at having doubted her, pride in the woman she had become, and a renewed sense of purpose for the company he had built. As Lily's broadcast came to an end, the screens in Times Square faded to black for a moment before displaying a simple message: the truth will always find a way. #StandWithLily. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Social media lit up with messages of support. People who had been touched by Lily's work at the community center came forward with their own stories. Former employees of Blackwood Enterprises, emboldened by Lily's courage, began to share their experiences of corruption and mistreatment. But perhaps the most powerful moment came the next morning, as Lily made her way through a crowd of reporters outside her apartment. A voice called out from the back, strong and clear. "Ms. Thompson, Harold Jameson here." The crowd parted, revealing Harold making his way towards her. He looked tired but resolute. "Lily," he said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "I owe you an apology. You showed us all what true integrity looks like, and in doing so, you've given Jameson Industries a chance to redeem itself. If you'll have me, I'd like to work alongside you to rebuild our company into something we can all be proud of." Tears pricked at Lily's eyes as she shook Harold's outstretched hand. This was more than just a personal vindication, it was a chance to create real, lasting change in the corporate world. In the days that followed, the fallout from Lily's revelations was seismic. Alexander Blackwood and his co-conspirators were arrested, facing a litany of charges. Jameson Industries underwent a massive restructuring, with Lily playing a key role in implementing new ethical guidelines and oversight measures. But for Lily, the most meaningful changes were the ones happening on a smaller scale. The community center thrived, becoming a model for similar programs across the city. Her mother's health improved, buoyed by the positive energy and reduced stress. And Emily, inspired by her sister's journey, threw herself into her studies with renewed passion, dreaming of one day making her own mark on the world. One evening, as Lily sat in a booth at Joe's Diner, now a popular spot for both locals and curious tourists hoping to catch a glimpse of the famous waitress who conquered, she reflected on the incredible journey that had brought her to this point. Joe approached, sliding a slice of apple pie in front of her with a wink. "On the house, kid. You've earned it." Lily smiled, feeling a warmth that had nothing to do with the steaming cup of coffee in her hands. She thought about all the people who had believed in her, supported her, and fought alongside her. She thought about the challenges she had overcome and the ones that still lay ahead. But most of all, she thought about that day, not so long ago, when a wealthy customer had ridiculed her, asking if she didn't dream of being more than just a waitress. If only he could see her now. As the New York City night bustled outside the diner's windows, Lily Thompson, former waitress, corporate whistleblower, and now a beacon of hope for underdogs everywhere, took a bite of her pie and smiled. She had left them all speechless, and her story was far from over. The next morning, as Lily prepared for another day at Jameson Industries, now in her role as Chief Ethics Officer, she paused to watch the sunrise over the city. The golden light seemed to promise new beginnings, new challenges, and new opportunities to make a difference. Her phone buzzed with a text from Carlos, "Turn on the news. You're not going to believe this." Curious, Lily switched on the television, her eyes widening as she saw the breaking news banner. Inspired by Lily Thompson, whistleblowers across the country come forward. The reporter's voice filled the room. In an unprecedented wave of corporate accountability, employees from dozens of major companies have come forward with evidence of ethical violations and financial misconduct. Many cite Lily Thompson's courageous stand against corruption as their inspiration. Lily sank onto her couch, overwhelmed by the impact of her actions. She had started this journey hoping to make a difference in her own life and the lives of those closest to her. Never in her wildest dreams had she imagined that her story would spark a nationwide movement for corporate reform. As she watched the reports roll in, detailing how ordinary employees were standing up to powerful executives and demanding change, Lily felt a mixture of pride, humility, and a renewed sense of responsibility. She knew that the road ahead would not be easy. There would be pushback, attempts to discredit the movement, and new challenges to face. But as she looked at the determined faces on the screen, people from all walks of life who had found the courage to speak truth to power, Lily knew that she was no longer fighting this battle alone. She was part of something much bigger than herself. With a deep breath, Lily stood up, smoothed her jacket, and headed out the door. There was work to be done, a movement to support, and a future to shape. The humble waitress who had once been ridiculed had not only left her critics speechless, she had given voice to countless others who had long been silenced. As she stepped out into the bustling New York morning, Lily Thompson walked with purpose, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. For she knew now, more than ever, that one person with courage and integrity could indeed change the world. The city stretched out before her, a landscape of endless possibilities. And somewhere out there, perhaps in a small diner much like Joe's, another underestimated individual was watching her story unfold, finding the inspiration to stand up and make their own voice heard. The revolution that Lily had unwittingly started was just beginning. And it promised to leave not just New York, but the entire nation, truly speechless. 1 year had passed since Lily Thompson's dramatic exposé had shaken the foundations of corporate America. The New York skyline, once a symbol of untouchable power and wealth, now stood as a testament to the changes sweeping through the business world. And at the heart of it all was Lily, the former waitress who had become a beacon of hope for millions. As Lily stepped into her office at Jameson Industries, now occupying the position of Chief Ethics Officer, she couldn't help but marvel at the journey that had brought her here. The walls were adorned with framed newspaper articles chronicling her story, alongside photographs of the community center and the people whose lives she had touched. But it wasn't just her personal office that had transformed. The entire culture of Jameson Industries had undergone a radical shift. Gone were the days of cutthroat competition and ethical gray areas. In their place was a new ethos of transparency, accountability, and social responsibility. Lily's phone buzzed with a message from Harold Jameson, "Big meeting today. Boardroom in 10 minutes. Time to change the game again." As she made her way to the boardroom, Lily reflected on the whirlwind of the past year. The movement she had inadvertently sparked had grown beyond anyone's expectations. Whistleblowers across the country, emboldened by her example, had come forward to expose corruption in their own companies. The resulting investigations had led to sweeping reforms in corporate governance and a renewed focus on ethical business practices. But it hadn't all been smooth sailing. There had been pushback, attempts to discredit the movement, and even threats against Lily and her family. Yet through it all, she had stood firm, buoyed by the support of her community and the knowledge that she was fighting for something bigger than herself. The boardroom was buzzing with energy when Lily arrived. Harold Jameson stood at the head of the table, a proud smile on his face as he watched Lily take her seat. "Ladies and gentlemen," Harold began, "1 year ago, we faced the greatest crisis in our company's history. We stood on the brink of ruin, our reputation in tatters. But thanks to the courage and integrity of one extraordinary individual, we not only survived, we emerged stronger, better, and more purpose-driven than ever before." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the room. Lily felt a warmth in her chest, remembering how far they had all come. "Today," Harold continued, "we take the next step in our journey. Lily, would you like to share our big news?" Lily stood, her heart racing with excitement. "Thank you, Harold. I'm thrilled to announce that Jameson Industries is launching the Ethics First initiative. This program will provide resources, legal support, and job protection for whistleblowers across the country. We're partnering with law firms, nonprofits, and other ethical companies to create a safety net for those who dare to speak truth. To power." The room erupted in applause. This was more than just a corporate initiative, it was a bold statement that Jameson Industries was committed to leading the charge for ethical business practices. As the meeting adjourned and executives filed out, buzzing with excitement about the new program, Lily felt a tap on her shoulder. She turned to find Jessica, Harold's former assistant and now head of the company's internal auditing department. "Lily," Jessica said, her voice low, "there's something you need to know. We've received an unusual request for a meeting." Lily's brow furrowed. "Unusual how?" Jessica hesitated. "It's from Victoria Blackwood." Lily felt as if the air had been sucked from the room. Victoria Blackwood, the woman who, along with her husband Alexander, had once tried to destroy Lily's life and career. The last Lily had heard, Victoria had managed to avoid prison time in a plea deal, while Alexander faced a lengthy sentence. What could she possibly want? Lily mused, more to herself than to Jessica. She wouldn't say. Just that it was urgent and personal. Lily's mind raced. Every instinct told her to refuse the meeting, to leave the past in the past. But something, curiosity, perhaps, or a sense that there was unfinished business, made her pause. "Set it up," Lily said finally. "But here, on our turf." The next afternoon, Lily sat in a small conference room, her heart pounding as she waited for Victoria Blackwood to arrive. When the door finally opened, Lily was shocked by the woman who entered. Gone was the polished, predatory socialite who had once sneered at a humble waitress. In her place stood a woman who looked broken. Victoria's designer clothes hung loosely on her frame, and dark circles shadowed her eyes. "Ms. Thompson," Victoria began, her voice barely above a whisper. "Thank you for agreeing to see me." Lily nodded, unsure of what to say. The silence stretched between them, heavy with unspoken history. Finally, Victoria spoke again. "I owe you an apology. No, more than that. I owe you everything." Lily's eyebrows shot up in surprise. This was the last thing she had expected. Victoria continued, her words coming faster now, as if a dam had broken. "When Alexander and I set out to destroy you, we thought we were protecting our way of life. We couldn't see, didn't want to see, the damage we were causing. But watching you, seeing your courage, your integrity, it forced me to confront some hard truths about myself." Tears glistened in Victoria's eyes. "I've lost everything, Ms. Thompson. My husband, my status, my friends. But in losing it all, I've gained something I never had before, clarity. And a desire to make amends." Lily listened, her heart a tumult of conflicting emotions. Part of her wanted to reject Victoria's apology outright, to hold on to the anger and hurt of the past. But another part, the part that had always believed in the power of redemption, held her back. "What are you asking of me, Mrs. Blackwood?" Lily asked carefully. Victoria took a deep breath. "I want to help. I have information about other companies, other people who are doing what Alexander and I did. I want to make it right. But I don't know how, and I'm afraid. That's why I came to you. You're the only person I could think of who might understand, who might be willing to give me a chance." Lily sat back, stunned. The implications of what Victoria was offering were enormous. It could blow the lid off even more corruption, accelerate the changes already sweeping through the corporate world. But it was also risky. Victoria Blackwood was not someone to be trusted lightly. As Lily weighed her options, she thought about her journey, from a struggling waitress to a corporate executive, from a victim of ridicule to a catalyst for change. She thought about the community center, about Carlos and the lives that had been transformed. And she thought about the Ethics First initiative they had just launched. In that moment, Lily made a decision that would once again alter the course of her life, and potentially the lives of countless others. "Mrs. Blackwood," Lily said, her voice firm but not unkind, "what you're offering is significant. But trust is earned, not given. If you're serious about making amends, about being part of the solution instead of the problem, then prove it. Work with our legal team, share what you know, and help us bring about real change. It won't be easy, and it won't erase the past. But it's a start." Victoria's eyes widened, a glimmer of hope breaking through her despair. "You'd give me that chance? After everything?" Lily nodded slowly. "Everyone deserves a chance at redemption, Mrs. Blackwood. Even you. Especially you. Because if someone like you can change, can choose to do the right thing, well, that sends a powerful message." As Victoria left the conference room, visibly shaken but with a new sense of purpose, Lily felt as if another chapter in her extraordinary journey was beginning. She knew there would be challenges ahead, skepticism from her colleagues, potential backlash from those implicated in Victoria's information, and the delicate task of balancing justice with compassion. But as she looked out over the New York skyline, Lily felt a sense of peace. She had come so far from that day in Joe's diner when a wealthy customer had sneered at her dreams. She had faced ridicule, betrayal, and seemingly insurmountable odds. And through it all, she had remained true to herself and her values. That evening, as Lily walked into Joe's diner for a quiet dinner, she was greeted by a familiar scene. The clinking of cutlery, the sizzle of the grill, the warm chatter of patrons, it all brought her back to where her journey had begun. Joe himself came out from behind the counter, wiping his hands on his apron. Well, he said with a grin, "Look who's gracing us with her presence. The big shot executive still remembers us little people, huh?" Lily laughed, embracing the man who had been like a father to her. "As if I could ever forget, Joe. This place, it's home." As she settled into her favorite booth, Lily was surprised to see Carlos slide in across from her, a mischievous glint in his eye. "Guess what?" he said, barely containing his excitement. "Remember that community outreach program you helped me start? Well, it's going national. We've got funding to expand to 10 more cities by the end of the year." Lily's face lit up with joy. This was what it was all about, not the corporate battles or the media attention, but the real, tangible impact on people's lives. As they chatted, Lily becoming engrossed in Carlos's plans and ideas, she didn't notice the hush that had fallen over the diner. It wasn't until Joe cleared his throat loudly that she looked up. The TV above the counter was showing a breaking news report. Lily's breath caught as she saw the headline, "Major Corporations Implicated in Widespread Fraud, Anonymous Whistleblower Provides Crucial Evidence." As the reporter detailed the explosive revelations, Lily knew without a doubt that Victoria Blackwood had followed through on her promise. The information she had provided was sending shockwaves through the business world, exposing corruption on a scale that dwarfed even the Blackwood scandal. The diner erupted in excited chatter, with many patrons turning to look at Lily, knowing her connection to the ongoing corporate reform movement. But Lily's attention was caught by something else, a familiar face at a corner table, watching her intently. It was the man who, all those months ago, had ridiculed her for being just a waitress. The same man whose cruel words had, in a twisted way, set her on this incredible journey. He sat alone, his once immaculate suit now rumpled, his eyes haunted. For a moment, Lily considered approaching him, perhaps offering some words of wisdom or comfort. But as their eyes met across the diner, she realized it wasn't necessary. The look on his face said it all. He was truly, utterly speechless. Instead, Lily turned back to Carlos, to Joe, to the community that had supported her through every step of her journey. As the excitement over the news report swirled around her, Lily felt a profound sense of gratitude and purpose. She had started as a waitress with dreams of a better life, not just for herself, but for her family and her community. Along the way, she had faced ridicule, overcome seemingly insurmountable challenges, and emerged as a beacon of hope for millions. But through it all, she had remained true to the values that had guided her from the very beginning: kindness, integrity, and an unwavering belief in the power of one person to make a difference. As the night wore on and the diner slowly emptied, Lily found herself alone in her booth, nursing a cup of coffee. She thought about the journey that had brought her here, and the road that still lay ahead. There would be more battles to fight, more lives to change, more wrongs to right. But she was ready for it all. The bell above the door chimed, and Lily looked up to see Emily walk in, her face glowing with excitement. "Lily! I got in. I got the scholarship to study business ethics." Lily's heart swelled with pride as she hugged her sister tightly. This was her legacy, not just the changes she had brought about in the corporate world, but the inspiration she had provided to the next generation to carry on the fight for integrity and justice. As they sat together, Emily chattering away about her plans for college and beyond, Lily caught sight of their reflection in the diner window. Superimposed over the bustling New York street outside, she saw not just who they were, but who they had been and who they would become: a waitress and a schoolgirl who dared to dream, who faced ridicule and adversity, and who emerged victorious not just for themselves, but for all those who had ever been underestimated or overlooked. The humble waitress who had been ridiculed had not only left her critics speechless, she had changed the very landscape of power and success. And her story, Lily knew, was far from over. It lived on in every whistleblower who found the courage to speak up, in every company that chose ethics over easy profits, and in every individual who dared to believe that they, too, could make a difference. As the first light of dawn began to creep over the New York skyline, painting the city in hues of hope and possibility, Lily Thompson, former waitress, corporate reformer, and beacon of integrity, smiled. She had faced ridicule and emerged victorious. She had left them all speechless. And in doing so, she had given voice to a movement that would echo for generations to come.